On my 10th birthday, Nanny Aunt Zhang got drunk and hugged me, claiming that I was her daughter. I feigned ignorance and continued to lead a luxurious life, basking in the love and favor of my parents. At the age of 10, I owned my first house. 15, I established my first company. At 22, I returned from my studies abroad and was ready to fulfill the marriage contract with the wealthy Gu family. As for Zhaodi from Aunt Zhang's family at 10, she was burdened with preparing the family's 3 meals and doing the household chores. At 15, she was compelled to drop out of school and work illegally. At 18, because she refused to go back to the village to get married, she was beaten almost to death and then disappeared without a trace. Time proved my choice right. On the wedding day, just as I was exchanging wedding rings with my husband Zhaodi, all covered in wounds, suddenly burst in and shouted, "I'm the real daughter of the Gu family. I will take back my parents and the marriage contract." I calmly removed my veil and smiled, saying, "Fine. Here's the main story. Chi-Chi, Auntie has stewed your favorite corn and rib soup." The corn and ribs were carefully selected by Auntie from the countryside vegetable garden. They're really fresh. Nanny Zhang served me my meal with enthusiasm as usual. Ever since I could remember, Aunt Zhang had been by my side taking care of my daily meals. She prepared the food strictly according to the nutritionist's recipe. Whenever I tripped while walking, she would insist on taking me for a comprehensive physical examination. To take even better care of me, she lived in my house all year without a break and was always at my beck and call. My aunt once said that Aunt Zhang took care of me more attentively than one would take care of a national treasure. Of course, since I was her biological daughter, she was bound to put her heart into it. I sat down to eat as usual, ignoring the anticipation on her face, and nodded indifferently, saying, "It's just so-so." A flicker of disappointment flashed in Zhang Suiping's eyes, and then she pushed a plate of fried chicken forward like she was presenting a precious treasure. "This is your favorite, Chi-Chi. Eat more." At the kitchen door stood a girl, her eyes filled with longing as she looked at the food on the table. She was sallow-faced and dressed in rags, leaning against the door and swallowing hard due to hunger. That was my mother's biological daughter, and Zhang Suiping named her Zhang Zhaodi. Noticing my gaze, Zhang Suiping said softly, "Did she startle you, Chi-Chi? Don't be afraid. Auntie will drive her away." I looked up and smiled sweetly, saying, "Auntie, let my sister eat with us." Zhang Suiping stroked my head, her love and affection clearly showing. "Chi-Chi, you're so kind-hearted." After saying that, she rushed up viciously, grabbed Zhaodi's ear and dragged her back. "You have some nerve. You, a despicable creature, dared to come out of the kitchen and startle my Chi-Chi. Can your worthless life make up for it?" Zhaodi was dragged back to the kitchen, screaming. Then I began to enjoy my lunch. Zhaodi's scream stopped soon because my parents arrived, and Zhang Suiping was busy coming out to greet them. My mother, Shi Yuehua, asked me to put on the new dress she had bought. She examined me from head to toe, as if appraising a product, and then nodded with a satisfied smile. "You're truly a child I've nurtured with great care. Have you had your piano lesson?" I lowered my head meekly and replied, "The lesson is in the afternoon, and the teacher will be here soon." Shi Yuehua took the tea that Zhang Suiping offered. Her eyes glanced at Zhaodi lying in the corner and she frowned, saying, "Sister Zhang, out of pity for you and your daughter, I agreed to let you live here with her. Look at how filthy she is. She's full of so many germs. What if she infects my Chi-Chi?" Zhang Suiping, while forcing a smile, dragged Zhaodi into the living room by force, muttering nonstop, "Don't you know how to wash your face? You're so disgusting. Look how lovely Chi-Chi is." Shi Yuehua pulled me to sit down and said softly, "See how blissful it is to be someone's daughter." I nodded in agreement. Being mom's daughter is a blessing I've accumulated over several lifetimes. The 3 of us in the family sat on the sofa, looking extremely harmonious. Zhaodi begged for mercy through gritted teeth. "Mom, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong." She wiped the blood from her forehead and humbly apologized to Zhang Suiping with downcast eyes. Zhang Suiping kicked her knee. With a thud, Zhaodi knelt heavily on the ground. "Apologizing to me won't do. Hurry up and apologize to Chi-Chi." Zhaodi knelt and shuffled to the feet of my mother and me and said, "Sir, Madam, Miss, I'm sorry." My father, Zhao Xinyuan, was desperately anxious. He promptly helped the person up and said, "Suiping, how could you beat the child like this? Hurry up. Uncle will take you to apply the medicine." Zhang Suiping snorted disdainfully. "This girl is a wretch. She won't learn her lesson without being beaten. Unlike our Chi-Chi, who was born with a princess-like fate." My mother was displeased with my father's concern for Zhaodi. She gave a soft cough and said, "Honey, the child of a nanny. Is it really worth your trouble to apply the medicine personally? Zhaodi is the same age as our Chi-Chi. I just feel sorry for her," Zhao Xinyuan explained. However, as he said this, he subconsciously let go of Zhaodi. Zhao Xinyuan explained. But while he was speaking, his hands instinctively released Zhaodi. Shi Yuehua played with her newly manicured nails. After a moment of silence, she stood up with a resigned sigh and said, "Forget it." After saying that, she stepped directly on Zhaodi's palm with her sharp high heels. Zhaodi dared not cry out in pain, and a red mark instantly appeared on her already thin and emaciated hand. It seemed that her hand might be fractured. Zhang Suiping pretended not to notice Zhaodi's injury. With a beaming face, she came up to me and said, "Chichi, the piano class is about to start. It's time for us to go to the class." I wore an expressionless face. Glancing at Zhaodi, who was holding her palm and shedding tears, I said, "Have her hand examined. After applying the medicine, bring her to the classroom to accompany me while I practice the piano." After today's class, to my surprise, Shi Yuehua and Zhao Xinyuan came to check on things. 3 days later was your birthday party. Play a piece for me. Don't embarrass us in front of the Gu family later. After I finished a piece, Shi Yuehua was quite satisfied. Not bad. The daughter of the Shi family is truly intelligent. The piano teacher, eager to show off his teaching skills, actually pushed Zhaodi, who was listening on the side, forward and said obsequiously, "Mrs. Shi, do you still need to renew the class? I'm very capable. Look, a child like Zhang Zhaodi with no foundation can now play a complete piece." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhaodi shrank back and shook her head frantically. Before I could say anything, Shi Yuehua let out an "oh" and sneered, "Then go and play a piece for me to hear." Zhaodi didn't dare to move and looked at me for help. I nodded gently. "Go ahead." Zhang Suiping had an unpleasant expression. She pinched Zhaodi's arm hard and dragged her to the piano, threatening, "Play well. Don't disgrace me." Zhaodi played better than me. The teacher, eager to show off, praised Zhaodi repeatedly. "Mrs. Shi, listen to how well she plays. As long as Miss Shi continues the class for the next half year, I guarantee she can play as well as Zhang Zhaodi." I sighed. Before Shi Yuehua got angry, I sent this tactless teacher away. Shi Yuehua looked at Zhaodi, whose face bore a 3-point resemblance to her own, and said sarcastically to Zhao Xinyuan, "Your distant relative's daughter has quite a talent for music. Should I pay to send her abroad to study?" Zhao Xinyuan was so scared that he didn't dare to utter a word. He frantically winked at Zhang Suiping to take Zhang Zhaodi out. "Honey, don't joke. It's good enough that you can give the two of them a meal. People like them don't deserve to study art like our Chichi." Zhang Suiping, as if showing her loyalty, kicked Zhaodi in the lower back and forcefully bent Zhaodi's fingers backward. Her expression seemed to really want to break Zhaodi's fingers. "Bitch, you were allowed to learn the piano and you dared to practice secretly. Did you come to the piano room secretly to practice behind my and Chichi's backs? You, with your lowly life, still dare to dream of learning the piano. If it weren't for Chichi's kindness, you would never have touched the piano in your life." Zhao Xinyuan stretched out his hand as if to help, but for some reason, he withdrew it. I saw everything and said casually, "Dad, Zhaodi is somewhat related to you by blood. Aren't you going to protect her?" Hearing this, Zhao Xinyuan reacted fiercely. He pushed me and shouted at me, "What are you talking nonsense about? How could I be related to her by blood?" My hand hit the piano keys hard, making a dull sound. The pain hit and I couldn't help but cry out. Zhang Suiping was more worried than Shi Yuehua. She quickly picked up my hand and gently blew on the red mark on it, glaring at Zhao Xinyuan and accusing, "Why did you push her? Chichi's hands are for playing the piano. They can't have even a single injury." Shi Yuehua clicked her tongue and said impatiently, "Go and see if it affects your piano playing. If it delays the meeting with the Gu family, you won't have a good life anymore." On the day of the birthday party, Zhang Suiping was busy running around. Every dish had to be tasted by her before it could be served to the front hall. Even if the bow on the back of the chair was tied crookedly, she would lose her temper at the service staff. "This is my Chichi's 18th birthday party, her coming-of-age ceremony. You low-class trash, if it weren't for giving you the chance to be waiters, you would never have seen such a high-class party in your life." I came out after changing into my dress. Zhaodi, looking disheveled and in ragged clothes, followed behind me, holding up my skirt. Zhang Suiping praised repeatedly, "Chichi looks so beautiful. Marrying into the Gu family is a blessing for her family for several lifetimes." Suddenly, she saw Zhaodi following behind me, and her face changed. She immediately shouted at her, "Can your dirty hands touch Chichi's dress? Let go. Don't force me to chop off your hands." Zhaodi let go and said timidly, "Mom, today is also my birthday." Before she could finish, Zhang Suiping slapped her. "You little slut, you still want to celebrate your birthday? It's good enough for you to go to the back kitchen and find some leftover food to eat." The birthday party in the evening went smoothly. The Gu family was very satisfied with my performance, especially my fiancé, Gu Yi. His eyes seemed to be glued to me. He announced on the spot that when I returned from studying abroad, we would hold a wedding. Shi Yuehua was very satisfied. This meant that the cooperation between the Shi family and the Gu family could continue. That night, Shi Yuehua quickly finalized my study abroad plan and called Zhang Suiping and her daughter. She gave them a deadline of 1 week to leave the Shi family. Shi Yuehua looked arrogant and dropped a check. "This is the payment for your 18-year service of taking care of my daughter. Take the money and leave quickly." Zhang Suiping was reluctant. She bit her lip, looked at Zhao Xinran and explained in a low voice, "Madam, I have taken care of Chi-Chi for so long. Otherwise, let me go abroad with her. Chi-Chi won't get used to it without me taking care of her." I chuckled. "Aunt Zhang, don't be over-sentimental. There are plenty of people like you as long as I pay enough." Zhang Suiping didn't expect me to say such words. Her eyes instantly turned red, and her face was full of grievance. "Chi-Chi, I have been taking care of you since you were born. Why are you so cold to me?" Zhaodi carefully touched Zhang Suiping's hand. "Mom, you still have me." "Get away," Zhang Suiping said. Not accepting Zhaodi's kindness, she pushed her away. "What can you compare with Chi-Chi?" "Chi." As if realizing she had said something wrong, her shout suddenly stopped. Her fingers tightened and then loosened. After calming down, she picked up the check and said with reluctance, "Chi-Chi, take good care of yourself abroad. Tell me whenever you need me. Auntie will always be waiting for you." I smiled. "Wait for me? Then wait for me to give you a big surprise in 4 years." When I was studying abroad, I heard that Zhaodi was forced to marry by Zhang Suiping. She took the money and ran away. Zhang Suiping also asked someone to contact me, asking if I knew Zhaodi's whereabouts. After being ridiculed by me, she no longer cared about Zhaodi, just saying that she had raised her for nothing for 18 years. In a blink of an eye, 4 years passed. In the second week after I returned to China, Shi Yuehua couldn't wait to hold a wedding for me and Gu Yi. At the wedding scene, celebrities gathered, and the Changmian Sengshi Halda scene was grand and imposing. When it was about to exchange rings, the door was suddenly opened, and a dirty-looking woman rushed in. It was Shi Zhaodi. She held a paternity test report in her hand, rushed onto the stage and grabbed the microphone. "I'm the real daughter of the Shi family. Shi Qi is the daughter of the nanny Zhang Suiping. This wedding is mine." She rolled up her sleeves to show the beating she had received by Zhang Suiping's side over the years and said tearfully, "Zhang Suiping is a devil. She didn't give me food and didn't treat me as a human being. I have been suffering for you all these years." After that, she rushed to Shi Yuehua and cried, "Mom, I'm your real daughter. We mother and daughter have been separated for so many years. I've been so miserable." At this time, Zhang Suiping, who had been hiding outside watching my wedding, also rushed in. She ignored her image and shouted to come up and drag Zhaodi away. "You little beast. You stole my money and ran away. Now you dare to come and ruin Chi-Chi's wedding. Get out of here." Zhaodi's crying was heartfelt, and the whole audience was in an uproar. "What? The daughter of a nanny is the daughter of the Shi family? The Shi family has invested so much in Shi and raised her by their side since childhood. How could they just disown her?" I took off my veil and directly interrupted everyone's speculation. "I'm indeed the daughter of the nanny Zhang Suiping." Zhao Xinyuan was the first to jump up in a hurry. He came over and pulled me aside. "Don't talk nonsense. Your mother had a hard time giving birth to you. Of course, you're her biological daughter. Come on, drive these two troublemakers out." The wedding continues. Some of the guests who didn't know the truth, also Qihong, joined in the Qihong. They called me an ungrateful person. "You're about to marry into a wealthy family, and you don't recognize your biological parents." I smiled and stretched out my hand, saying word by word, "You know very well whether it's true or not." Zhao Xinyuan was in a panic. He stepped back step by step, trying to suppress his trembling lips and Banjia defend. "How could I know? Chi-Chi, you should watch the occasion when you go crazy. This is your wedding." After that, he put his arm around Shi Yuehua and kept explaining that he knew nothing. "Mom, I'm really your biological child. You must stand up for me." Shi Yuehua frowned, helped Zhaodi up, carefully looked through the paternity test report, and then turned her eyes to me. "You knew it all along. Then why didn't you say it? Why didn't you tell me?" When Zhang Suiping saw me being scolded, she couldn't hold back her temper. She directly protected me behind her and scolded Shi Yuehua. "Put your attitude right. Chi-Chi is now Mrs. Gu. She can crush your Shi family with a flick of her finger. You were lucky to raise my daughter. Now that everything is clear, let's take this opportunity to exchange daughters. It's my turn to be the wealthy mother-in-law." Shi Yuehua, who was pampered and spoiled, was no match for Zhang Suiping. She was scolded so much that she couldn't get a word in and could only cover her chest and pant. The originally quiet venue fell into chaos again, with all kinds of shouts and curses. "She looks nice, but her heart is so vicious. Bah, bad genes. No matter how much you cultivate, she's still a bad seed. The upper beam is crooked, and the lower beam is askew. Such a person still wants to be related to the Gu family." Zhang Suiping didn't care about those voices. She pulled Gu Yi and said very quickly, "Hurry up and exchange rings. From now on, I'm your mother." Gu Yi shook off her hand, and Zhang Suiping almost fell off the stage. "You must give my family an explanation." Zhao Xinyuan quickly stepped forward and pulled Zhang Suiping away, pointing at her nose and scolding her for being shameless. "Sister Zhang, our family has treated you well. Considering your past work in my family, today I'll consider you crazy because you have no money. As long as you explain clearly that all this is your fabrication, I won't hold you accountable. Otherwise, I will never let you go." Zhao Xinyuan's eyes were fierce. He blamed the appearance of Zhang Suiping and Zhang Zhaodi for disrupting his plan. Zhang Suiping's eyes flashed. After a moment of pondering, she said with some determination, I'm not lying. Sure, Chi is my biological daughter. For so many years I have taken care of Chi-Chi meticulously. To take care of her I rarely even cared about my own daughter. I have dedicated my whole life to your Sure family. Fortunately, God blesses me. It turns out that I have been taking care of my own biological daughter all along. Why do you stop us from recognizing each other as mother and daughter? As she spoke, Zhang Suiping began to detail the abuse she had suffered in the Sure family. I served Chi-Chi closely all year round without a break. But Sure Yuehua was jealous that Chi-Chi was close to me. She would pick on me every now and then. It wasn't enough for her to take her anger out on me. She also had to beat Zhaodi. Zhaodi, Mom didn't mean to beat you. Because if I didn't beat you, that bitch Sure Yuehua wouldn't let you live. I know you hate me, but I really care about you. It's all that bitch Sure Yuehua. She has ruined all of us. Everyone present took a deep breath. Was Sure Yuehua really such a person? A prominent female entrepreneur, capable of such child abuse? In the crowd, someone finally pointed out the key point and said, the focus of our attack should be Sure Chi, right? Didn't she already know the truth? Immediately, everyone's anger turned in my direction. She's really heartless. She has occupied someone else's position for more than 20 years. Now she's still shamelessly trying to marry into the Gu family. She has no shame. She gets to be a wealthy young lady, while the real rich girl gets beaten and abused. She should be reported to the police and arrested. Zhaodi shrank back and summoned up the courage to say, Sure Chi did it on purpose to watch me suffer. She often bullied others with her power. The food I ate was already not fresh. She often asked people to bring me leftover food that had gone bad and forced me to eat it. Sure Chi, you wicked person. You'll never have a good life again. You used the money to study abroad, while I could only hide and wash dishes for others. You owe me and must pay me back. I accepted all the accusations. Yes, I did it on purpose. Your existence in Zhang Suiping's is a mistake. I'm annoyed when I see you. You can bring some fun to my life, and that's the only value of your lives. Zhang Suiping was very anxious. She pushed all the blame onto Sure Yuehua. Unfortunately, no matter how much she tried to clarify, everyone was convinced that I was a villain. Zhao Xinyun was really in a hurry. He tied Zhang Suiping's arms behind her back and tried to drag her out, but I didn't give him this chance. Why, Mr. Zhao, are you more anxious than the Sure family? Could it be that you also knew about this ugly affair of swapping children? How could it be? Zhao Xinyun quickly tried to clear himself of responsibility. Honey, say something. The wedding must continue. The contract between the Gu family and the Sure family can't be broken. Concerned about the interests, Sure Yuehua finally calmed down. Anyway, Chi-Chi is my daughter Qingxia-in-laws, can rest assured. The wedding of the two families will continue. This matter will never affect the cooperation between the two groups. Before she finished speaking, Zhaodi suddenly went crazy, pushed everyone away, and rushed to the cake with a roar. She picked up a table knife. You all side with Sure Chi, that bitch. I hate you. After that, she stabbed herself in the abdomen with the knife. The bright red blood instantly soaked her upper clothes. After a brief moment of astonishment, many people screamed and rushed towards Zhaodi. The heart-rending cries for help resounded throughout the entire banquet hall. Zhang Suiping took the opportunity to join in. If one ignored her hand that was placed under Zhaodi's nose to test for breathing, she really seemed like a mother who loved her daughter deeply. Poor child. It's all the people of the Sure family who forced you to death. May your spirit in heaven bless Chi-Chi. Someone took out their phone and started recording. Someone opened the door, and soon the banquet hall was filled with onlookers. Amid the curses of those people, the onlookers understood the whole story. In their eyes, I was now a person who had long known that I was a fake rich girl. Rather than clarifying, I was a brute who bullied the real wealthy daughter with my status. Countless malicious remarks surged towards me. Some even took the food on the table and threw it at me. Soon my body was covered with rice soup and vegetable leaves. Brute! You don't deserve to be human. You'll end up in jail. You had the chance to let the real wealthy daughter study and learn like you, but what did you do? You made her live a life worse than that of pigs and dogs. In the face of the overwhelming anger of the crowd, I didn't take it to heart. I calmly walked to Zhang Suiping, who was approaching me. Zhang Suiping quickly stood up. A closer look revealed that there were no tears on her face at all. Chi-Chi, don't look. It's disgusting. Be careful of having nightmares, she said softly. Then she turned to Sure Yuehua and shouted, Sure Yuehua, now you forced Zhaodi to death. Are you satisfied? Although Zhaodi isn't my biological child, I've raised her for over 20 years. You have a heart of stone. That's your own daughter. Zhang Suiping knew human nature well and knew when to feign pity. Clearly, all of Zhaodi's injuries were caused by her. Clearly, she had planned all of this, yet she could still maneuver here and even tried to absolve herself. I stared at her coldly and said, Stop acting, Zhang Suiping. Isn't this the result you wanted? At my words, a trace of guilt flashed in her eyes, but she quickly regained her confidence. She diverted the topic, saying to me, What are you talking about, Chi-Chi? We're mother and daughter. You can't misunderstand me. Mom, all of this is Sure Yuehua's fault. If it weren't for her provoking Zhaodi, Zhaodi wouldn't have committed suicide. Don't worry, Mom will protect you. Don't be afraid. Someone beside us sighed. Motherly love is really great. She was close to her even when she was a nanny. What else could it be if not blood? Sure, she is really lucky. She's been a young lady for over 20 years, and now she has such a loving biological mother. Before I could speak, the entrance suddenly fell silent. The police and doctors pushed through the crowd and entered. Zhaodi was quickly carried away. After understanding the situation, the police asked the people involved to go back and be investigated. I interrupted and said, "Let's talk here." Seeing that I had a good attitude and that the Sher and Gu families were local celebrities, the police didn't force me to go to the police station. They turned on the law enforcement recorder and asked, "You said you've known your own background for a long time. Why?" I confessed that when I was 10 years old, Zhang Suiping got drunk and hugged me, saying that I was her biological daughter, while Zhang Zhaodi was Sher Yuehua's daughter. She said she did this to take revenge on Sher Yuehua. The police frowned. And then, she said she deliberately raised Zhang Zhaodi to be good for nothing. When I married into a wealthy family, she could justifiably recognize me and share the Sher family's property with me. Hearing this, Sher Yuehua burst into tears. Just for money, you set up a scheme and separated our mother and daughter for over 20 years. I interrupted Sher Yuehua's crying and laughed. Stop acting. It doesn't matter whose surname Sher. It's all the same to you. You just need a tool for marriage alliance. Sher Yuehua was stunned and stammered. No. Zhao Shenun took over and said with red eyes, "You've known for a long time. When Zhang Suiping was abusing Zhaodi, why didn't you stop her? Do you deserve your mother's cultivation of you?" I looked at Zhao Shenun and asked, "Didn't you know too?" At my words, the police turned their attention to Zhao Shenun. He immediately became restless, sweating profusely and stuttering. "What are you talking nonsense about? Do you have evidence?" The police added. I nodded and slowly said, "Of course I have evidence, because I'm the child of Zhang Suiping and Zhao Xinyuan. Zhang Suiping was his childhood betrothed in the village. After Zhao Xinyuan married into the Sher family, the two conspired to let Zhang Suiping come to the Sher family as a distant cousin to be a nanny. She and Sher Yuehua were pregnant at the same time and gave birth at the same time. The idea of swapping me and Zhang Zhaodi, Zhao Xinyuan knew about it from beginning to end. However, he didn't care. Anyway, both daughters were his blood. No matter who inherited the property, it would eventually be his, Zhao Xinyuan's. Zhao Xinyuan stubbornly said, "It's all your speculation. You don't have any evidence. You're slandering me." I sneered. Coincidentally, I also have a paternity test report. I took out the report from the table in the corner. It was clearly written in black and white on the paper that the parent-child relationship between me, Zhang Zhaodi, and Zhao Xinyuan was established. As soon as the report came out, everyone present took a deep breath. So, it turns out that this Phoenix man wanted to rise in status. The man is really a scoundrel. They're both his own daughters, yet he could let Zhang Suiping abuse his own child. He doesn't care about anything else. He only cares about money. I said we shouldn't have a son-in-law who marries into the family. Look at what kind of person the Sher family has recruited. Hearing these remarks, Zhao Xinyuan's face turned red and then white, but he still wasn't willing to give up. Say whatever you want. After all, I'm your biological father. I said indifferently, "You're my father only if I recognize you. If I don't, you're nothing." Sher Yuehua came to her senses from the shock. She clenched the report and threw it in Zhao Xinyuan's face, questioning, "Our Sher family has treated you well. This is how you schemed against my family. You let my daughter be abused under my nose. You won't die a good death. I will never let you go." The police were already confused by this messy relationship. They couldn't understand the mutual calculations of the wealthy families. "Miss Sher, please calm down." Before Sher Yuehua could speak, I interrupted. "Stop pretending to be a good person. It's as if you've ever treated me well. You didn't need your own biological daughter. You just needed someone to help you consolidate your status." A relative of the Sher family retorted, "Sher Chi, you can't say that. Without the Sher family, you're nothing. Do you think the money you've been living on, studying abroad, and seeing the world all these years came from nowhere?" I sneered. "You seem quite envious. Then why don't you marry into the family for today's alliance?" Seeing that the noise was about to start again, to avoid causing trouble for the police, I raised my voice and continued. Sher Yuehua said I was closer to the nanny. "Why don't you tell everyone the reason?" "That's because you never treated me as a human being. When I was 8 years old, a business partner of yours praised me for being cute and innocent. You sent me to his room. No matter how much I cried and made a fuss, it was no use. You said if I wasn't good, you would throw me out. Fortunately, that business partner was timid. Seeing me making such a big fuss, he was afraid of causing a death and didn't touch me. After I finished speaking, those who had been yelling about my ingratitude also closed their mouths. You want evidence? I've recorded everything stroke by stroke. Now it's probably in the police station's reception room. Such things happened countless times in the first 18 years of my life. On the night of my coming-of-age ceremony, weren't you going to send me to the uncle of the son-in-law? I smiled faintly, looked at the people of the Gu family and said leisurely, "A bunch of hypocrites. You really think you're human just because you're wearing formal clothes. If it weren't for Zhaodi saving me that night, I don't know if I'd still be standing here today." The police were silent for a moment and then asked, "Since Zhang Zhaodi is your savior, why did you watch her commit suicide?" "Why not? Sure, Yuehua is unscrupulous for the sake of profit. Zhang Xueping doesn't care about human life for the sake of money. There's no hope for her to live." Sure, Yuehua's eyes were about to burst. Her eyes seemed to want to eat me. Having been exposed in the dark, she knew it was difficult for her to turn things around, so she simply stopped pretending. "You think you can bring down me and the Sure family like this? Stop dreaming. Your little evidence can't sue me at all." I ignored her and turned my attention to Zhao Xing. "You've had it too good these years. Maybe you've overlooked the changes in Zhang Xueping. She hasn't been around you for a long time, has she?" Zhao Xinyuan's eyes flickered as he looked at Zhang Xueping. "You think she's still devoted to you? You're still dreaming of reaping the benefits when the snipe and the clam fight." I walked up to Zhang Xueping and reached out to hook her shoulder. Her body was shaking violently. "Aunt Zhang, why don't you introduce your murder plan to everyone? The notebook in your bedside table is so detailed. Car accidents, fires, disembowelment. TSK. You really don't have any old feelings left." Zhang Xueping's body was shaking so much that she could barely stand. She desperately wanted to escape from my grasp. "Chi-Chi, I'm your biological mother. I gave birth to you after 10 months of pregnancy and took care of you painstakingly for 20 years. You can't treat me like this." Zhao Xinyuan's male pride was insulted, and he actually mustered up the courage. He rushed up when no one was looking and choked Zhang Xueping's neck, gnashing his teeth and saying, "Bitch, you want to kill me? You don't even measure your own ability." Fortunately, the police present reacted quickly, but by the time Zhao Xinyuan was pulled away, Zhang Xueping was already on her last breath. Sure Yuehua, under the comfort of the people of the Sure family, had regained her senses. She took on the aura of a business negotiation and said to the police present, "Everyone, my lawyer will be here soon. Before that, I don't accept any accusations." I clapped my hands, indicating that everyone should listen to the police sirens outside. "Hear that? This is the police I called. Sure Yuehua, your retribution has just begun." The sound of the police sirens came from afar and gradually approached until it stopped. Another group of economic investigation police arrived. "Miss Sure Yuehua, you're suspected of multiple economic crimes. Please come with us." Sure Yuehua's smiling face froze again. She shouted, "Impossible. I haven't committed any crimes. You don't have any evidence. You can't arrest people." One of the police officers nodded and greeted me. This scene fell into Sure Yuehua's eyes, and she finally understood. "Sure Chi, it's you. You've never been in contact with the company. I don't believe you can find evidence." I handed the most important surveillance evidence to the police, and my tense nerves relaxed a little. "Blame it on the lax transfer of your company. Zhaodi worked as a cleaner in the group for 4 years, and you didn't even know." Zhao Xinyuan, who was being held, suddenly looked up, his eyes full of disbelief. "Impossible. Her leg was broken by Xueping. She should have died outside." Zhang Xueping, who had just caught her breath, was also shocked. "Bitch, they're all bitches. I should have killed her back then. If the Sure family is gone, how can I be a rich lady?" Her expression gradually became crazy, and her hair was already in a mess. She muttered to herself, No, I'm still a rich lady. My daughter is the wife of the Gu family. I'm a wealthy mother-in-law." The police, who had the clearest mind, retorted, "So today was a play between you and Zhang Zhaodi?" I let out a long sigh of relief and said, "Yes, we've been planning for over 20 years just for this moment." Zhaodi wasn't actually injured. She had a few blood packs around her waist. Letting her act like that was just to get her out of the scene. It's too chaotic here. I'm afraid she'll really get hurt. The police sighed and patted me on the shoulder to comfort me. "You've worked hard." The economic investigation was cleaning up the scene in an orderly manner. The people of the Sure and Gu families had been handcuffed. Sure Yuehua finally lowered her head. I couldn't help but show a smile. "It's so good. Everything is about to end." I was just about to walk out with the police when suddenly, Zhao Xinyuan's angry roar came from behind. "Sure Chi, if you don't let me live, you won't live either." The moment I turned around, I was suddenly pounced on. The sound of a knife stabbing into flesh reached my ears, but the expected pain didn't come. "No, Sure Chi can't die. I still want to be a rich lady." Zhang Xueping lay on my back, spitting blood and saying intermittently, my daughter is a young lady. I'm a wealthy mother-in-law." Things happened so quickly that by the time I reacted, Zhao Xinyuan had already had his knife taken away and been handcuffed. He was still shouting and struggling desperately, while Zhang Xueping had lost her breath. I was taken away for investigation. By the time everything was explained clearly, and I left the police station, it was already early morning. Looking at the moon in the sky, I was deeply confused. Zhang Xueping was good to me, but this couldn't erase the fact that she had abused Zhaodi. She was good to me because she wanted to live a good life through me. For this illusory good life, she ultimately lost her life. "Sister, what are you thinking?" Behind me, Zhaodi gently put a coat on me. "Sister, it's all over. The good days are ahead for us." Her words instantly dispelled the haze in my heart. I laughed and cried at the same time and hugged her back. Yes, our good days have come. The next day, we packed our luggage and started a national self-driving tour. The car drove onto the highway. Zhaodi took out a new ID card. She changed her name to Shurfeng. Looking forward to being as free as the wind in the future. I changed my surname to Shur because your surname's Shur, sister. All along, you've been my only family. Sister, in those years, if it weren't for you protecting me, Zhang Tsuaping would have already beaten me to death. You don't have to blame yourself. You pulled me along to learn everything the Shur family taught you. I know all the good things you've done for me. We're each other's shadows. 3 months later, on the border of our country, we received new news about the old people. Shur Yuehua was convicted of multiple economic crimes with conclusive evidence, and was sentenced to 20 years. The other people of the Shur family didn't escape either. The once powerful group collapsed in an instant. Zhao Xinyuan was sentenced to death with a reprieve for attempted murder, and those shady deals with Shur Yuehua. After everything was settled, I sent Shurfeng to my alma mater to fulfill his dream of going to college, and I used the money I had saved to open a Chinese restaurant at the school gate. Occasionally, I also helped some students who worked part-time to support their studies. Wherever Shurfeng is, that's our home.